you get a new president, okay, and we got a new one here. The first 100 days of that administration becomes very important because generally what they refer to this as like a mandate. So you just got elected, the American people elected you, and they support what your vision is. So that first 100 days, you can get a lot of things done generally. Now it helps if your party controls Congress as well, okay? Because the other party, is made up of, people that don't support your agenda. It makes it more difficult, okay? But we're going to start with the 100 days, and there's going to be a lot of action in this first 100 days. Okay. All right, so first thing, we got another amendment to add. I think on the test, I don't know if did I end up asking you about the 18th and 19th Amendment on the test? Yeah, so this is the 20th, okay? And this is known as the lame duck amendment. I think I probably mentioned this before. Roosevelt was the last president to be inaugurated on March 4th. So obviously our elections are in November. First Tuesday after the first Monday in November on even-numbered years, every 4 years, okay? They used to take office on March 4th because they were using horseback to get to the Capitol, okay? Now we have planes, trains, and automobiles, okay? And so they shortened that time period between the election and inauguration. So that time period, guys, when you have an outgoing Congress and an outgoing president, they refer to it as a lame duck period, where you don't get a lot of things done because there's a new administration coming in, okay? So there's a cute little cartoon character of a lame duck up there, okay? So what's the biggest crisis facing America? Obviously, homelessness is an issue. There's a lot of bad things going on with the Depression, okay? So right off the bat, Congress is ready to just go to work for the president, okay? They're ready to sign just about anything to get anything done. So they're going to go to work right away. And just 5 days in, on March 9th, they're going to pass the Emergency Banking Act. Okay, the Emergency Banking Act has a name. Here's the Emergency Banking Act. The nickname for this is a bank holiday. Was it you yesterday were saying you got off Juneteenth or you work at a bank? Yeah, okay. This is different than Martin Luther King Day or Juneteenth as far as getting the day off. This bank holiday, guys, this is nationwide, and it could last a few days for your bank. It could last a few weeks. It could last a few months. They shut down the banks, and they're going to investigate. Okay, so this passes the Congress. Both houses signed into law in 1 day. 1 day. That's very rare. Okay. But it shows just the attitude, like we've got to act now. Okay. So what's another term for the Emergency Banking Act? The bank holiday. It's the same thing, guys. Okay. Just like the bonus bill and the Adjusted Compensation Act. It's the same thing. All right. So you're going to need to know about this. This is a big deal because, listen, you still work at the bank? You don't work at the bank anymore? Okay. Are banks privately owned businesses? Right? Like somebody owns the bank. Don't we have a family like around here that's involved with Legacy Bank? Is that your family? Okay. You guys own the bank. That's awesome. Okay, I don't know how you do that. Was it grandpa that started the bank or something? Or great grandpa? That's awesome. Now it's a legacy. Are you going to run the bank? Are you going to study business? What did you do at the bank?
I scanned paper computer for like 4 hours a day.
Oh, that sounds boring.
So bad.
Well, you got to start at the bottom, learn all the business, and then you can run the business. Yes. if you want to. Okay. All right, well, that's pretty cool. So what do you think, how do you think your great-grandfather would feel if the federal government came in, the Secretary of Treasury, by the way, his name is Morgenthau, right? Morgenthau is the Secretary of Treasury, and they're going to shut down your grandfather's bank, okay? And they're going to investigate. This is the bank holiday. Now, this bank holiday, they got to go through all those papers that you've been scanning. Okay, and they got to figure out what your financial stability is of this bank. And then when the Secretary of Treasury feels like you're ready to reopen your bank, he'll let you reopen your bank. Does the government have the power to do this? To shut down private businesses, investigate them, and only reopen them when they see fit? Is this constitutional? It's not, guys. This is totally unconstitutional. But you know what? People don't care because the banks are in trouble and they want the government to do something. You guys follow me on this? Now, in order for something to be deemed unconstitutional, your grandfather would have to sue the federal government for shutting down his bank. It would have to go through the court system and work its way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would have to say that that action is unconstitutional. That's going to take years. You understand? So this bank holiday will, for some banks, last months. Others not as long. Okay, so this is going to be a trend, guys, where the government is going to act in ways it's not given the power to act. Yes, sir. What does investigate mean?
No, like, is it investigating?
Making sure, I mean, obviously you're looking for fraud. Okay. You're looking to see if, how much cash they have available on hand. Are they in good shape? Or do they need help from the government? Because the government is going to help. These sorts of things. So, Roosevelt goes on the radio, okay, and gives the first of what is known as a fireside chat. How many of you guys have heard this term before? Fireside chats. Okay, not many. All right, so basically, guys, this is just a radio address. Now, understand, there's no televisions in people's homes. So if you put television that was mass-produced during the 1920s, they were not, as one of your options of things that were mass-produced during the 1920s. Okay. So what do people do when they go home? I mean, they go to work, come home, go to school, come home, they have dinner, and they sit around and they listen to the radio instead of sit around watching the TV. Now, I don't know if you guys go home and watch TV or not. My wife and I generally do. We watch TV most evenings, usually the news, okay, or sports. That's about it. I mean, I got home last night. She was watching the Hallmark Channel. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. But I had been off watching baseball with some friends. So, anyhow, did Hoover give radio addresses? Yeah, he got on the radio. Coolidge got on the radio too. Did they call those fireside chats? Okay. This is a romantic view that historians use. Because they like Roosevelt, where we sit around as a family around the fireside and listen to the President of the United States. Okay. Now, listen, this is a guy born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He went to Harvard. He's a Harvard guy. How is he going to connect with these unemployed, these people that are struggling, okay, people have lost their homes, okay? How's he going to connect with them, this rich guy? Well, actually, Roosevelt's very good at this. He's a great communicator. Okay, so he talks to people in a simple language that they understand, okay, and they like listening to the president, and the president's trying to help. Okay, so he gets on the radio, tries to reassure Americans, hey, we're going into the banks, we're investigating the banks, we're going to get them reopened. Okay, this works. Okay, even though it's unconstitutional. Okay, an examination of that most banks were in pretty good condition, about 80%. Now remember, a quarter of all the banks have already gone under, so the ones that were in bad shape have already gone under. You know what I mean? So, excuse me. The last 20%, you're going to take a while. So because the government is doing this, people begin to trust the banks again. Okay, and instead of hiding their money in the freezer or in the attic or in the bed mattress or under the mattress, within a month of this, about $1 billion in deposits are returned to the banks. Okay, so as people start to put their money back into the banks, of course, are going to be in better shape. Okay, by midsummer, 94% of the banks with deposits were reopened. So some of those banks had a very long bank holiday. Okay. Then Congress goes into action with what is called the FDIC, which stands for Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. This will help prevent runs on banks. Okay, this will help prevent panic. Okay, and I have started grading your long answer questions, guys. It really, on that, the bank failure question, you really needed to put in there that there was a panic, there was what was called a run on banks. This is where all the people show up at the door to cash out their accounts. Okay, that was a big contributor. Now, obviously the banks were short on cash for multiple reasons. Started with the rural banks with farmers. Okay, then you have your margin loans from the stock market crash. You got unpaid mortgages, stuff like that. So the banks were in trouble. This is going to help. So Glass-Steagall, basically that's two members of Congress that sponsor this legislation. So they just named it after them. Okay. Later, we're going to see another one with Steagall's name in there called Wagner-Steagall that deals with another issue. Okay. So this is Glass-Steagall. And the FDIC today, Solentrop, you can probably tell us how much it insures your money today in the bank. So if somebody had a lot of money in your bank, the federal government would insure that money if Legacy Bank went out of business, up to how much? $250,000. Okay. Here it's going to be $5,000. Now, what is $5,000 in 1933 compared to with inflation? That's probably a lot. Okay. I don't know what the conversion is, but as you can tell, this would prevent wild speculation, panic, and so forth. Now listen, if any of you guys have this issue where you have more than $250,000 to put in the bank, you would want to put that in multiple banks, different banks, yes? If that is an issue for you, you can see me after class about your grade. We can talk. Yeah.
It was like in the bank. How did you get money out of the bank?
Yeah, so I mean, some of them opened up pretty quick. But yeah, I mean, they told you, hey, listen, you're not going to be able to go to the bank for a few days. Yeah. It's just like on Martin Luther King Day, right? The bank's closed. Oh, man, I was going to make a deposit. You know what I mean? Now, we have ATM machines today, but they stay open. Yes. Okay. So, just a couple things here, right? Okay, so government is acting outside of their constitutional powers here, but people don't mind. I mean, some of the banks might mind. Okay, but this is going to help restore faith to the banking system. And today, it's helped. Now, we've had periods going back to 2009, the financial crisis. We had some banks go under. Okay, mostly that's due to mismanagement, okay, not bank runs and stuff like that. But now, in order, guys, to have this insurance, you have to become a member of the Federal Reserve Board. So not every bank is a member of the Federal Reserve Board. There's a catch. So in order to get FDIC protection, you got to join, which means if you're a member of the Federal Reserve Board, guys, Federal Reserve Board can investigate your bank, which now makes it legal to investigate banks, if that makes sense. Now, if you have a credit union and you're not FDIC, okay, then the government has less regulation over it. Okay? There's always a catch. All right, so we're going to move on. Do you guys feel like you got this? I think I do ask you to write about this on the test, about the bank holiday, the emergency banking. Okay. Okay, so next thing we're going to get into some economics here. Okay. We've got a deflation crisis here. Anybody got a dollar bill? I have no cash on me. You got a dollar bill? Okay. So if you look at the top of the dollar, okay, it says Federal Reserve note. Okay. So Federal Reserve now controls currency. How much currency is in circulation and so forth. Okay. Now, in your young lives, you have experienced inflation. Okay, so everybody, I think, knows what inflation is. What happens to the value of a dollar during inflation? It goes down, right? Prices go up, wages go up, demand generally goes up during inflation. Okay, now it's not always like that, but I'm gonna kind of draw this up here for you guys. Okay, so we've got inflation and deflation. Okay, we've got wages, prices, and demand. Okay, so as the notes show, or as we just talked about, wages generally go up, prices generally go up, and demand generally go up during times of inflation. Okay, so right now, inflation is back down under 3%, which is good. Okay, what is optimal for the United States, for us, people who live here, is a very slow rate of inflation. Okay, what we don't want is deflation. Deflation is really bad for a country like the United States. And here's why. Wages tend to go down, prices tend to go down, demand tends to go down. Now, the last factor here is the value of the dollar. Okay, so as I just mentioned, right, when we have inflation, you can buy less with this, right? Things become more expensive. This does not buy as much as it used to. Okay, so during the times of inflation, the value of the dollar goes down. Here, the value of the dollar goes up. This is bad. And you're like, why, Mr. Ebright? Like, I could buy more with my money. The problem is there's less, it's harder to get your hands on the money. If wages are going down, you're going to have fewer of these dollars. Okay? But here's the big thing, is that in this country, we like to borrow these. Yes? If you buy a house, like my 25-year-old son just did, he's $200,000 in debt. And he's got a 30-year mortgage, and he's paying 6% interest on it. So when his monthly payment is $1,300, $1,400 a month, most of that $1,400 is going to pay the interest on the loan. Very little is going towards the principal of the $200,000. It'll take 30 years to pay that off. Okay. If you borrow money, say you borrow $200,000 and there's inflation, okay, the value of the dollar goes down. Every dollar I pay back to the bank has less value than when I borrowed it. And with wages going up, I got more of these. It makes it easier for me to pay my debts. Does that make sense? So inflation, a slow rate of inflation is good for people that borrow money, and Americans borrow money. Very few people save up $200,000, stockpile that money, and then go buy a house. Almost all of us will borrow money to buy the house. Now, when I buy a truck, I save money for that over 10 years, and every 10 years, my plan is to buy a new truck. So I save the cash, and then I just pay cash for it instead of having to pay interest on a loan. To do that with a house is horrible. So think about this. All right, deflation. We're in a depression, right? Wages, we know, are dropping. Prices are dropping. Farm products, prices are dropping. Okay? Demand is down. People can't afford to buy goods. The value of the dollar is going up. So if you owe money on a house, on a mortgage, and there's deflation, you're in trouble. Does that make sense? So this is a crisis. So think about this. What can we do to reverse this? How can we reverse deflation and create inflation? Well, just ask Joe Biden. I'm sorry. Go ahead, if you have any ideas. Yeah. Print more money. Okay? And that's what we did. And guys, it wasn't just Biden. Okay? Listen, going back to the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, guys, we were printing $50 billion a month. Okay, now, once you print these dollars, how do you get it into the hands of people? Okay, the government prints the money. You're not buying stuff from the government. What? You distribute it through the banks. Through the banks. Okay, what is going to encourage people to borrow money from the banks? Low interest rates. So you cut interest rates. Okay, so during the Obama, first Trump term, and the Biden years, interest rates were historically low. So the Federal Reserve loans money to the banks at a certain interest rate. Then the banks loan it to the people and businesses at a certain interest rate. So the lower the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates that they give to the banks. So they say to the banks, we're going to give you money for 2% interest. The banks turn around, they give it to you for 3% interest. So the banks can make some money. Does this make sense? Guys, we had like 1% interest rates. Going back to 2009, 2010, we're just printing money and printing money and printing money. Low interest rates, and people are borrowing money and buying houses. And you know what I mean? Like, it's cheap money. You're stupid not to borrow money when it's at 1%. You can invest it in the stock market and get 6%. Margin loans. Okay? So this is what, but there's a problem. In 1933, there's a problem with printing these. Go back to the notes. What's that? That's gold. And our currency is based on gold. It's called the gold standard in 1933. So the amount of currency that is in circulation is equal to the amount of gold that the Federal Reserve holds in Fort Knox or under the Federal Reserve building in New York. So you can't print a bunch of money if you don't have gold to back it up. Follow me on this. so let me show you. I'm going to fast forward. Okay, let me show you a couple things. These are gold coins. Okay, you have a quarter eagle, which worth $2.50, half eagle worth $5, an eagle worth $10. Sorry, and a double eagle worth $20. Now, how many of you gentlemen are walking around right now with change in your pocket? Nobody likes to carry around change in their pocket. Ladies, you got a little pocketbook in your purse with some change in it? Some coins? None of you? You don't have a little coin purse? Yes? Yeah, you got a little coin. All right, is it all like in your center console of your car? Like you got, that's your coin purse. That's where mine is. Okay. Yeah. So people don't like to carry around these coins. Okay, and if you don't know, gold is kind of heavy. Okay, so you're like weighed down by all these coins. Okay, so the government distributed these. These are called gold certificates. This looks just like a $50 bill today. Yes, it's got the same president on it. Okay, it's got Grant on there. Okay, it looks like a 50, and you can use it like a 50. Instead of carrying around gold coins, this is worth 2 double eagles and an eagle. It's worth that much of gold. Okay? So we got a problem. We need more gold, stockpile gold, so that we can print more money and get us out of that deflation. You guys with me? So what they're going to do, they're going to demand that all Americans turn in these gold coins to the banks. Everybody's got to turn in their gold coins. It is illegal to possess these gold coins after 1933. This is why they are so rare today, because they melted them down so that they could print more money. You also had to turn in your gold certificates. And what you were given in exchange were these. Federal Reserve notes. Okay? So you turn in your gold coins, they give you these. And the value of this is going to drop by about 50%. That's how much money they're going to print. So what a dollar would buy yesterday will only buy 50 cents. So back in the day, when we had the gold standard, Cole has pretty long hair, so like if I just pulled out one of these hairs, could I buy that much gold with a dollar? No. It's trading at like $1,800 an ounce right now. Okay, you could pull out one of my hairs, and I have the shortest hair in the class. Could you buy that much gold with a dollar? Huh? 15. Oh, yeah. Yeah, my bad. My bad. So, guys, we've been doing this now by the 1960s, guys. We were actually during Nixon in the 70s. We got off the gold standard totally. Okay, this dollar will not, I mean, just a speck of gold. You know what I mean? It just won't. Because it's $1,800 an ounce, I think. It may be more than that right now. Okay, gold's trading pretty high. Okay, so this is the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. It makes it illegal to piss. You guys ever watch like Pawn Stars? You guys ever watch Pawn Stars? Yeah, people bring in gold coins, you know, and stuff like that. These are very rare. Okay, and I've got a little article I'll show you when we're done here. Okay, so a little bit complicated, but I think I explained it pretty good. Okay, so we're going to modify the gold standard. We're not going off the gold standard altogether. Okay, so every dollar will still be backed by some amount of gold. People have to turn in their gold coins and gold certificates to the Federal Reserve. Okay, and you will get these in exchange. Now, this is great for people that owe money. You know what I mean? Like your mortgage just was cut in half, basically. Now, how do you think the banks feel about this? Oh, they're pissed. This is changing the rules of the game in the middle of the game, man. This is crazy. Okay, but It's dramatic. You know, this is a crisis. Okay, and that, you know, I'm going to keep talking about this, guys. When there's a crisis, we cede a lot of power to government. So, guys, they settle on like 59 cents of gold per dollar. Okay, that's where they start. So each dollar would be worth 59 cents in gold. Eventually, that's just going to keep dropping and dropping and dropping because the government keeps printing money. Okay. Today, well, geez. Okay. So sorry about this. I know it's a lot, but so like I said, 59 cents. Okay. They said the president can reduce the backing up to 50%. They said, well, 59 cents should be enough. Okay. And this is going to help the economy to some extent. Again, this isn't going to get us out of the depression. So this will provide more money for people to spend. It will help raise prices, which is good for business. It will boost exports. I'll talk to you about this. Okay. But the most important thing it did is D here. It decreases the burden of debt. It makes it easier for people to pay their debts. Okay. So it went over well to them, people that owe money. But the people that loan the money, they're getting screwed. Straight up. And they call it legalized robbery. Robin Hood. But I do want to talk about exports here when you guys kind of get caught up with these notes. We do have all these tariffs. We've got tariff wars going on with Europe especially. Okay. So when it comes to trade, if the U.S. dollar is devalued, it's cheaper to buy American goods. Okay? This will boost exports. Now, that goes for the globe. So whatever country we're trading with, if their currency is devalued, let's talk about the Chinese yuan. That's their currency. The yuan. If they devalue their currency, it makes it cheaper to buy Chinese goods. Now, the Chinese tend to cheat on this. They devalue their currency on purpose to increase their exports. Okay? The dollar is one of the stronger currencies in the world, even though we've printed so many of them. Because, guys, other nations have followed our lead on this. Guys, when we had interest rates at 1%, Japan had negative interest rates. How do you do negative interest rates? Well, you want to borrow $100,000 from a Japanese bank, we're going to give you $110,000. But you only have to pay back $100,000. It's a negative interest rate. It's crazy. Nuts. Yeah. 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 That's what happens. And guys, and I told my students for years, from 2008, 2009 on, when we started printing money, like 50 billion a month, every month. They call this quantitative easing. And I told my students at some point, guys, there's going to be inflation. It's going to happen. And sure enough, by the time we rolled around to Joe Biden, and COVID had a lot to do with it. That inflation hit. Okay, because when the government shut down so many businesses, so many people couldn't go to work, the government started printing money and sending out checks. to people. Some of your older siblings might have gotten checks. Some of your parents might have gotten checks. Okay, my wife and I made too much money. We didn't get checks. My kids weren't old enough yet. So, but if you were 20, 21, 22, you probably got a check from the government during COVID. So you flooded all this cash into the system. This was not people borrowing money. This is the government sending money. It created inflation, okay, and 40-year high. Now, back in the 70s, under Jimmy Carter, my parents bought a house, $100,000 house, which in the 70s is, that's a pretty nice house. And they were paying 13.5% interest on it. And we had high inflation. And we had high unemployment. It nearly bankrupted my family. Okay. It was bad. Okay. So they just lowered interest rates a little bit this last month. Okay. And I think they'll lower them again because right now the economy is starting to slow down a little bit. Certainly when it comes to employment, okay, it's starting to slow. So when you look at each month, they come out with unemployment claims. These are people that lose their jobs and go to Social Security and ask for a check because they lost their job. When they look at those numbers versus jobs created, because if you guys have ever gotten a job, you got to fill out a W-4 form or whatever, W-2, whatever that is, and that goes to the government so they know how many jobs were created and how many were lost. And right now that's tightening. Yeah.
States have to contribute to that.
The social unemployment comes from the federal government from payroll taxes that businesses pay. So when I pay into Social Security, which we'll talk about in this section, and I'll explain it all to you. Everybody that works in here pays 6.2% into Social Security. Your employer matches that. They got 6.2% for all their employees, and that goes to fund unemployment insurance. Usually for 26 weeks, you can get on. That's 6 months. You can get unemployment. Okay. So does this make pretty good sense to you? I think I've gotten pretty good at explaining this. Yeah.
Like this stuff during those all come on.
Probably some economists that he was working with. I'm sure this idea was floated during Hoover, but Hoover, he's not gonna change the system. So yeah, this right here is not unconstitutional. The government decided to do this. They created the Federal Reserve, and this, it was all passed by Congress. So certain laws violate the Constitution. Certain actions of the executive violate the Constitution. This didn't, but it does. What has it created? Like 2025. What impact has this decision had going off the gold standard? Okay, which means the only thing backing this up is our faith in our economic system in the United States. And if our economy struggles, and we're very fortunate, guys, that this is the currency of international business. Okay, you can use the dollar in a lot of different countries. And I've traveled a lot of different countries, and the dollar is valuable. It's, it's been to Mexico, obviously, right? You can use the dollar in Mexico. Okay, in Europe, in a lot of places you can use it, but the euro actually has more value, a little bit more value than the dollar. The pound is probably the most valuable currency of them all.
Teachers, as we end second hour, I'm sorry for this interruption, but we needed to make this important announcement that because Father Hayden and Father John are both gone today, we will not be having a mass as part of today's house community time. It will be academic time. Also, since it's becoming academic time, if you have not done your Zelo project,
Bye.